Welcome to the Hustlers Corner, brothers and sisters, and we're getting into education. We're learning today. Like, share, subscribe. Guys, don't forget to switch on that notification bell so you get to know every time we drop brand new episode. The community has to grow. And I just want to thank you guys. We've been growing tremendously this year. We're about to hit 200,000 subscribers, and that's the goal for the end of this month in April. We need to be on 200,000 subscribers. So a lot of people keep on saying, yes, Buddha, you're a marketing genius. Yes, Buddha, this and that. Hey, Banban is a marketing genius. I am sitting with the real marketing genius today, and she's South Africa's voice of marketing. I'm going to let her introduce herself, but ladies and gentlemen, I'm very excited to sit with my sister, Lebo.
Hi, Sbu. How are you doing?
It takes a hustler to see another one. I'm good.
It takes a hustler to see another one. I like that you said that. Because people often look at me and they think, oh, she's just some corporate lady. Or, you know, just a pretty face who maybe slay queen. I don't know. But they never say this one's a hustler or an entrepreneur or whatever. So thank you for saying that. I appreciate it.
I guess because the environments that I've been with you in the same rooms, although before I'd met you, eventually we met at Bulelani's event, is all entrepreneurial events.
Yes.
So we're all coexisting in the same spaces.
Yes.
And I love the fact that the rhetoric that you're putting out there is education.
Yeah.
And it's marketing and it's branding and it's things that I am passionate about.
Yes.
That's why I decided, hey, let's have a sit down and talk about this. Like, who are you for those who don't know?
Thank you for having me, and hello to all the hustlers. Is that what we call them on the Hustlers Corner?
Yeah.
Hi guys, I'm Lebo, known as the voice of marketing, as we said. And I'm a woman who's disrupted a lot of spaces in entrepreneurship in the marketing world. So I'm known for being the first South African female to have a podcast on the iTunes Top 100 charts consecutively. So I was the first one. Before it became cool for us to do YouTube videos for our podcast, I was the first woman, not even black woman, to do it. And I was the first one to monetize. And I was also the first African podcaster to partner with Veuve Clicquot International. So basically, I showed them how to create a footprint in Africa and how to work with us as creatives and people who are business people. So it's pretty cool. And then I've created businesses. I have an agency where we try to teach corporates how to do influencer marketing while social media marketing, while digital marketing, because that is the future, and I believe in technology, right? And I come from a background of having my first business being a tech startup. So after varsity, me and my friends said, we don't want to work for anybody. Let's be audacious and do something crazy.
Straight after varsity?
Literally straight after varsity. So in varsity, and I've got a long story, but basically in varsity, I was that girl selling things. I was selling T-shirts at O Week. I was at the door at the club helping people who I wanted to get to know. I was like, I'll stand at the club and I'll be the one who gives people the tags. I literally tried everything. If I like somebody and I was like, I want to work for them or I want to do something, I would go give my services for free or give my time for free so I can learn and let them see what I've got to offer. So straight after varsity, we were like, no, we don't want to work for anybody. We're going to try entrepreneurship. And because I've always networked with people and gotten to know people from a very young age, we knew somebody who knew somebody who was selling tablets, right? So they were like, this is the connect. If you go to China, or whatever, you'll get tablets. So we're like, cool, we'll get the tablets, but what do we do with the tablets, right? My business partner and friend, he's a finance guy, so he thinks about the numbers, he thinks about the basic business of it, and I'm the marketing brain. And I said, we need to give these things value if we want to sell them in South Africa, because why would someone pick us over a Samsung or any other brand that's known for tech, right? So basically what we did is we did some research and we realized that the government was rolling out paperless learning classrooms at the time. And so they were looking for tablets, they were looking for technology. And we said, let's be one of the suppliers of this thing. And we didn't have the funds at the time to buy these tablets that we had audacious goals for. So what we did was we found another supplier in China who was selling weaves. And we were one of the first people to sell hair to Abo Faith Nketsi, Abo Jessica Nkosi and stuff like that, before it was a big thing to have weave businesses. And the weave business is very lucrative, guys. So we made money very quickly, and we were able to open offices in Rivonia. and get coders to start working on software for us, because we needed a USP for the tablet, right? You can't just have a tablet, it means nothing. Anyone can have a tablet. So our USP was that we were going to create software and learning tools that would teach kids in the townships and rural areas how to learn mathematics, science, and English in their mother tongue. Very complex and sophisticated software, big goals. So yeah, we used the Weave money to fund the tech company money. And then, because also I'm a marketer, we found a way to create a really cool presentation that prototyped our vision. So we were able to go and pitch to different corporates and, you know, ask them to hear us out and then give us a little bit of money to keep going, essentially. So that's where my entrepreneurial, like my real entrepreneurial start comes from. But that's also where I knew that I really was good at marketing. Because before, I practiced it in small spaces, maybe at like my uncle's tuck shop or my grandfather's tuck shop or my dad's many little businesses. That's where I kind of practiced my skills. But when I had to actually go to like banks and, you know, big corporates and ask these old men in suits to give me money for an idea that honestly didn't really hold that much weight in the sense of who am I, what is this market, that's when I realized that actually I'm a goat at this marketing thing and I can take it further than what I'm doing here. So that's where I started with marketing.
And where are you from?
I'm from here. I'm a Joburg girl.
Oh, you're a Joburg person?
I'm a Joburg girl, born and raised.
I don't know, like in my mind I think you're from, but maybe from Mafikeng or you're from Pretoria or something, Tshwane.
People always think that. It's so weird because some people think I'm like Sutu, right? Some are like, no, Umuzulu, you look like you're a Zulu girl. But most of the time when I go to the shops, the shop assistants and attendants, they speak about me in Sutu or Zulu because they think I'm Nigerian.
Are you serious?
Oh, they think I'm Congolese.
Yeah.
But I'm not. I'm actually Venda. And I grew up here. I was born in Soweto, and then my family moved to Vosloorus at some point, and then we moved to the burbs.
So you've stayed both in the East Rand and the West Rand?
Yes.
And in the suburbs?
And in the suburbs.
So you're full-on Joburg person.
I cannot get lost in Joburg. Don't let this accent fool you. I cannot get lost. You cannot, like Shaya me. I know this place. This is my town.
And what can you School.
So look, and this is what I love about your podcast, right? You showcase different people and the different backgrounds that they have. And you almost unveil or demystify this idea that black people are one thing. And I think I'm a good example of the fact that there are black people who have backgrounds that may not necessarily be celebrated, but they exist, and they actually add to this ecosystem of black success that we see in South Africa. So my dad, he's an entrepreneur as well, and he always tells us the story about how he walked from Venda to here barefoot. He didn't have shoes. He didn't have shoes.
And how long did that take him?
I don't know. Okay. I don't know, but he said he had to walk here, he had to come by, he did a lot of things to get, he didn't have shoes. And his first job...
So he hiked his way to Joburg? He
hiked his way to Joburg. And his first job was actually parking the trolleys at Woolworths in Rosebank. He said that was his first job, and he was using that to pay for his schooling of Wits, because he went to Wits. Cool. So my dad used to tell us all these stories, and he said to us, guys, no matter how much money I make, I will always make sure that I prioritize most of my funds to your education. So from a very young age, I think from the time I was 5 years old, I've been going to private schools. Even when we lived in the township, my parents were like, it doesn't matter. Nothing else matters. It doesn't matter what car we're driving, where we're living, as long as these kids are getting the best education, that's what we're going to give them. So I've been going to private schools my whole life. And I think it's a real privilege to have parents who prioritized, you know, my education and my well-being over everything else. Because they could have also, you know, been Louis V up and down, Gucci parents, whatever, but they weren't. They decided to create a nurturing environment for me and my sister, you know. So a lot of people get surprised when they're like, how does this girl know so many things? It's because my dad, my parents afforded that for me. If I needed to travel somewhere, they made sure she can go. If I needed to try new foods and restaurants just so that I know things, my dad would actually take us and say, okay, this Friday, I'm not going to go to the office. I'm going to take you guys to Wimpy, and I'm going to teach you what a burger is, or whatever. You know, just he would always teach us those little things. And I would urge anybody who's watching to invest in your children's education. That thing is priceless. You can never, ever go wrong with that, because the person they become is a very empowered person who can navigate through any space. Put me anywhere in the world, I'm very confident I can make it because of my education.
And did you also go to Wits?
I went to Wits as well. The age had me. I went to Wits and I did my postgrad at UJ. And that's also where I learned that I could teach people. because I needed some money. My parents didn't spoil me in the sense of like giving me everything. So they were like, listen, you've got a place to stay, your fees are paid for, you need to get your own pocket money. So I asked some of the kids who were in my, I think it was business management third year class at some point, and I said, what can I do to make money? And they said to me, bruh, UJ has this really cool tutors thing where you can make money, and it's like you get a lot of money. At the time, ABSA was sponsoring the tutors, so they were giving us quite a lot of money. I signed up to become a tutor, and I did so well tutoring my students that the lecturer started like giving me access into like all the things they were doing. They were letting me co-lecture with them sometimes because they felt like I understood the students better than they did, and I could simplify the content better than they could. So they gave me access to that. And also, all of the kids who I was tutoring at UJ, all my tutorial classes, the kids were literally getting B's and A's. Nobody left my tutorials without actually excelling, because I believe that when you teach people, you need to nurture who they are first. So in the beginning, funnily enough, I was tutoring the kids who do the bridging course.
Yeah.
And I didn't even know that existed until I had to tutor them. And they were always coming late, their marks were disappointing, they didn't have attention, and it was frustrating me because I was like, how are you guys not excited to be here? So the one day I was like, we're not going to learn, we're going to talk. Tell me what the problem is. Why aren't you guys coming? You need this. You're not going to be able to get into varsity without this, so why aren't you taking it seriously? And they said to me, no, actually, I live here, I have to take a bus, and then I have to do this, and the tutorial's so early that I miss it, or I can only come to half of it because, you know, I had to take the bus, and then I had to do this, and then I had to run from here to here. So I was like, okay, actually, you're demotivated because this learning environment doesn't accommodate your lived experience, and so you can't learn effectively. But you actually want to be in the space, you know? So how do I help you fix that? So I asked if we could move the time, and, you know, we had like a motivational part of the tutorial before we actually started doing the tides, and they really enjoyed that. And I think it was that and the connection that made them go, Lebo actually cares about us succeeding. We're not just numbers. She actually cares about who I am. I'm Tabo. She knows my background. And I think when you see students and you can give them examples that fit their lives, you set them up to succeed.
How did you become the voice of marketing?
I branded myself as the voice of marketing, to be quite honest.
You're very brave.
So yeah, I did, because my podcast did really well. So I didn't just have all those accolades with my podcast for nothing. My podcast is about marketing and business, right? So even now people say, like, how do you start a podcast about something that isn't necessarily very popular? How did you know people were going to listen? I didn't know. I just decided to create something that I was interested in. And I genuinely believe that marketing is the bedrock of everything in the world. So if we don't understand what it is, how do we actually create value? How do we have a competitive advantage as a country, as companies, as people? Like, how do we not understand this thing? I'm so passionate about it. I want to talk about it. So my podcast was literally only about that. For the first 3 years of that podcast, it was an audio podcast.
3 years?
3 years. For
so
the
you're
first
running
3
for
years.
quite some time.
Yeah, it's still running now. I think we've been running for 5 years. We were there in the beginning. Before MacG had a podcast, it was me and 2 other people. We were there. We were the first ones to actually start this thing. And we did about marketing. And I remember at the time, people like Simon Sinek, for example, were like, this girl is quite cool. Like, we're seeing this African girl. She's doing this thing about marketing. And you have to know that in the rest of the world, they don't see African people as thought leaders. They don't think you can go to Africa and find a Lebo who's got knowledge that's on par with Adam Grant or whoever. And when they were hearing my podcast, they were like, oh, there are people like that, you know. But the podcast wasn't for them, actually. It was for entrepreneurs and students. So what I wanted to do was to democratize access to information. And that just means open up the industry so that entrepreneurs and students can have access to this information that helps them improve their businesses, helps them improve their studies and their lives. And in doing that, I guess because I created the value, people started talking about it and listening to it, and corporates were like, let's hop onto this. And different companies in the States and the UK said, come teach our stuff. We like, you know, what you're sharing on your podcast. And at the time I was like, I must teach your stuff. You know, this is just stuff that I know intuitively. It's not like I had written processes or had a textbook. It's just things that I knew, and I decided to share them.
What is marketing?
Marketing, and that's a great question. Marketing is the process of adding value in the inception of a product or service, right? So it's not the promotions that everyone thinks it is, advertising. No, marketing is product design, how the inception of the product, testing it, the flavors that we like, the entire creation of the product or service, that is marketing. And making that thing something consumable is marketing, that whole process. So from taking, I don't know, let's say a mint leaf all the way into a tea bag, that entire process is marketing. Then your advertising and your branding fall into something that we call the promotions part of the marketing mix. There's something called the marketing mix. And the marketing mix is basically a strategic breakdown of all of the elements you need to cover in order to do good marketing. So that would be things like your product, your price, your place, the promotion, the physical evidence, the process, the people. All of those elements need to be ticked off for you to have what would be called good marketing, right? So when people think marketing nowadays, they're thinking promotions, which would be your digital marketing, your branding, your advertising. That's just a small, like a tiny, tiny, tiny part of the actual broad picture of marketing. So technically, you could do marketing and not advertise your product and still sell it well. You don't need to advertise a product to sell it, but you definitely have to market it for it to exist and for it to be something that's consumed by the market. Does that make sense?
It's very interesting to hear your take on it.
Yeah.
Because I've heard,
Yeah.
everybody else and all of us, I'm also one of those people that think it's promotions.
Yes.
It's advertising.
Yes.
It's getting stuff out there.
Yeah.
It's very interesting that you're saying that. And now it takes me back to going to go do research and find out a little bit more
Yeah.
about how other people, view what marketing is. Now, why does it have to be repetitive?
Why does it have to be repetitive? What do you mean?
Like the promotions part of it and advertising. Like Coca-Cola is still advertising until today. Everybody knows Coke.
Yes, everybody knows Coke, but remember, each product has a life cycle. So that means that your product you create the product, right? Let's say you created in 1999. If your product still exists in 2023, it's been alive for X amount of years. So even if you think of it as a human being, a baby isn't going to be spoken to, used, engaged with the same way that a teenager would, in the same way that someone who's middle-aged would, in the same way that an old person would. It's the same with your product. Your product, in its identity, starts as a baby, then it's like, a little kid, a toddler, then it's a teenager, then it's someone in its 20s, and it's, so that entire life cycle requires different communication, different amplification, because everything changes. So if your product was born, let's say 20 years ago, the market might be Gen Zs, right? Your Gen Zs grow, they get older. And they're probably going to be the ones who love and use your product the most over time. So how do you make sure that you're talking to the older Gen Z instead of the Gen Z that you met 20 years ago? Do you get what I'm saying?
I get you.
So because each product has a life cycle, you have to amplify it differently. You have to create value for it differently over time. It's not the same. And I think what people get confused is they think if I create a brand, people will always buy my brand because there's this logo and everybody knows it. Ooh, MoFire. Therefore, we've got a brand. People are always going to buy it. All I have to do is keep selling, selling, selling. Yes, you can sell, but if you're selling something people don't value, they're not going to buy it. And advertising doesn't create value. Advertising amplifies. It showcases something to people, and it might nurture the interest that they may have in the thing, but it doesn't create sales. Sales is created by how does somebody go, 1 + 1 is 2. So how do they go, this person is advertising this thing to me, and through the advertising, I'm able to see that there's value. And because there's a connection between that advertising and the overall marketing, the value is enough for me to want to buy something. That's what marketing is. And it sounds so complex, but it's simple because people are doing it every day. People are creating products every single day. They just don't know that what they're doing is called marketing. They think it's called branding because that's what people like to scream to the rafters about. They say, oh, I've got a brand. Let's talk about a brand. It's like, no, but your brand it's the last part of the whole marketing thing. It's that perpetual value that you get because you created something that's so valuable that people actually care now about things like your logo and your font. But you can have the best logo and font on something people don't want, and they won't care that it's the best logo or font. And you can have some of the worst logos and fonts on things people like, and they'll think that logo and font are great because they love that product so much. Do you get what I'm saying? So the value is the marketing, and then the branding and the advertising are the amplification, and they create the identity of the product. But if Spoo just looks nice, but when he speaks, we don't care about what he's saying, he's not valuable to us, then it doesn't matter. And that's what marketing is, the process of creating value.
We've seen a lot of companies group the department. They'd call it sales and marketing.
Yeah.
The relationship between sales and marketing?
Oh, Lord, that's also a peculiar situation, right? And I always have controversial views about marketing, sales, and branding because people, they have a very limited view on it, and they do it because I don't think for a long time we've been taught to interrogate these kinds of concepts. You know, if someone says HR, finance, we just accept it for what it is. And I'm saying, but even in the things that you are taught, you need to ask yourself, do I agree with the definition of that thing? Because when I see it in action, I don't think it's the same thing. So even with me creating that definition of marketing, it's mine. But I remember being in my first year marketing class, and I said to my lecturer, I absolutely disagree with your definition. And he said to me, really, come down here and tell the students. Well, and I did, right? Because I don't believe that he was right. I don't believe that half the companies in the world are right about how they define marketing, to be quite honest. So in corporate, what happens is they don't necessarily understand the funnels that need to be created for sales. So they put the responsibility of selling on marketing, when marketing's function is all about creating value. Sales, on the other hand, is about when we have this value, how do we make sure we get the customer to buy it? So the skills required to create value are not the same skills required to communicate the value and to get somebody to buy. Very different. Like, I think you're a great salesperson, right? But there are some people who, they'll be sitting in a corner quiet, you don't even know, but they've got these great strategic minds and they're better at creating a valuable product than people who are good at sales, right? So people have different skills, and I don't think corporate has realized that the skills needed for marketing are very different to the skills needed for sales. And if you've got a really good team or a really good leader, they'll understand that marketing supports sales, so they need to put a lot more money in the marketing department so that sales doesn't have to do so much to get people to buy. But the worse the marketing is, the more you have to do to get people to buy. You know, I have a book, it's called Audacity, and so far I still have not paid for one ad for the thing. We did one launch, and I honestly haven't really done much for the book.
And why didn't you even bring the book here?
I should have brought the book here.
You should have.
My mind is everywhere, but honestly,
But it's okay, the next episode when you come, you must bring it.
Exactly, but I make sales every day for my book. And people always say to me, but like, you're not doing anything, you never take it anywhere. I'm like, yeah. But the people who follow me know exactly where to go. I don't, and I can't explain it in any other way than the fact that I've got good marketing for my brand. You know, and the day that I decide to amplify it and advertise it, we'll see sales skyrocket. But I can tell you now, I consistently, every single day, I have sales for this book because I created so much value in the creation of the actual product that people want it, whether I'm amplifying it or not. And that's why I say to people, you can definitely sell something without advertising it.
So create value.
Create value, essentially, you know. And I was actually holding the MoFi can because I wanted to make an example out of it, you know.
Yeah.
People look at this thing, obviously it's associated to DJ Spoo, who's a celebrity, so it kind of clouds their judgment in terms of what would value look like for MoFi. But at the end of the day, if we take you away from it, right, we've got a can with something inside. Right? And then you've written all of the stuff on it. Cool. Nobody really cares. I mean, you're saying high caffeine content. I don't think half the people who drink it actually read that or even know. And it has that. So, like, why are they buying this thing, right? Is it because of the ingredients in the can? They don't know what's in here. Is it because it's blue? No, not at all. Is it because of this logo? Do they even know what it means, half of the people who buy it? No. So there's clearly some other value that you've created with this thing that makes somebody say, I align with this product, it makes sense to my lived experience, and it's a part of me. Therefore, I want to buy it. Do you get what I'm saying? And we could put those factors to the fact that it's you. And because the Spoo brand already stands for something, anything you touch stands for the same thing. They're not buying this can. They're buying something bigger than that. And a lot of people will say that is branding. No, it's marketing, it's the value. The branding is what we see. It's the can, it's the logo, it's, you know, the hashtag, it's all of that stuff. But the marketing is that intrinsic thing, right? And it's also the physical thing as well. It's the actual product inside. The fact that somebody came up with a recipe for it. Recipe developers are marketers. In sophisticated companies, the recipe developer would be in the marketing department. In beauty companies, for example, the guy who comes up with the lipstick and stuff, those scientists, half of them are marketers as well, because they have to know how to create value in the actual product. Do you get what I'm saying? It's like you can have a lipstick that looks beautiful, but if every time I have to use it, it breaks, I'm never going to buy that lipstick again. It's not valuable to me. It's inefficient. I can buy Mofire because Smooth's so great and I love him. But if it tastes terrible, I'm never going to buy it again. Because what's the point of it? So we can have all the branding we want, but if the actual thing is not valuable, the customer will eventually just let go of the product and never use it again. So when we talk about things like creating loyal customers, that comes from marketing, not branding. And once you have good marketing and you're able to galvanize people and make them loyal customers, they elevate your brand. And that's what gives your brand equity, right? Brand equity is not made from sales or anything like that, because any new product can come in the market anytime, make more sales than you, and then what? That's not brand equity. Brand equity is how many people are consistently standing by what you're creating. And how long are they going to do it? Because equity is a long-term game. It's not a short-term measure. So how long can you get people around your brand, loyal customers, to stand behind this thing and say, we will buy it and anything else that comes from it? That's brand. But marketing is the thing that creates the loyal customer base because you've created something valuable.
Do the same principles apply to an individual, and do individuals need marketing?
Yes, absolutely. You're a personal brand, I'm a personal brand. Anybody who's known for doing something or symbolizing something as a personal brand. And I'd even take it a step further and say that I think all people are brands, because we're all born with a unique DNA that makes us special and different. And it means that we all have something unique to give to the world, right? So if you're going to think of yourself as a personal brand, then you ask yourself, what is it within me? What's the unique value that I have to offer that can have commercial value, that people can buy from, gain, and do something with their lives because they know me or they have something from me. So my USP, for example, unique selling point as a personal brand would be that I educate people and I give them the knowledge that they need to be able to grow businesses that work, to be able to create lives that they love from having personal brands that allow them to access different rooms and do whatever they need to do. You know, and a lot of people play this thing down. They'll be like, oh, personal brand, that's so cringy. I'm just going to be myself. It's like, no, in the world, you can never just be yourself. You have to be very intentional in everything that you do, whether it's being Lebo or selling Lebo's book, whatever it is, you have to be intentional about it. And what intention does is it allows you to create a clear roadmap for where you want to go and who you want to become. Right now, and we've just given it the term personal branding. But once you have a personal brand, you'll find that just like the Mofire brand, you can sell this energy drink, but you could also sell lollipops. Maybe you can sell bread. I don't know, whatever you want to sell. Lebo can do that too. She's no longer just a person. She's an entity that can diversify her offering because she has a brand. So I can put my name on a lipstick, I can put it on a book, I can put it on a property company, and people will go to that thing because it has my name on it, right? And I'm not a celebrity. I haven't been on radio, I haven't been on TV, but I can tell you now, if I had to open a property company, people will believe me, because I have a personal brand. And we've seen with the scandal now with Dr. Nandipa and all these people, how powerful a personal brand can be, because she was able to convince so many people to do so much because they believed in the brand that she was portraying online. So these things are big. We can use them for good or we can use them for bad, but they work. And we should start as digital citizens conscientizing ourselves to the idea that to compete in a noisy world, that's a world that's highly tech-driven, that has a lot of advertising online and offline, you need to stand out, right? Because there's a lot of us. So how do you stand out in a world where there are over 3 billion people online? You have to showcase your value. And people are attracted to value. Value meets value. If you can help me in my life, I find you valuable and I help you. And that's how we have to start thinking about it if we're going to be digital citizens that actually win in a technologically driven world. Yeah.
Now that the world is where it is right now,
yeah,
how has the internet and the evolution of this digital space that we're in impacted marketing? And how have companies, some of the biggest companies, maybe we can say multinationals,
yeah,
evolved into, still being relevant to this day?
Look, technology for me is the greatest game changer of our time. And social media has given all of us so much autonomy and power as individuals that it's making corporates have to start thinking about doing business properly. Because before they got away with a lot of things because they were the only ones in the market, or they had the most money, or they had the largest customer base, or whatever the case may be. But now people are showing them that no, actually, you weren't giving enough value. You were just the only player. And now with social media, we're seeing that people are creating businesses for basically nothing. I mean, you literally just need a phone, some data, and a little bit of money to start whatever you want to start. Actually, you don't even need money to start to have the product. Because what you can do is, for example, I know that people are starting to own Airbnbs without owning Airbnbs. And that's because of the internet. Because they can be, I think, co-leases or whatever to the property without owning the property. They don't have to pay to own the property. They just have to speak to the main owner of the property to have a share and say, with me having a share of this property, I'm going to bring customers to your space. And in doing that, you're going to pay me a little bit of money. And so now I've got this property company without owning any property as an individual. These are big game-changing moves. I don't have to have an Uber anymore or an Airbnb. I can just be one individual, create an entire business with my phone. That's big. And I don't think people understand just how big that is. You know, I don't have to be signed to exclusive books to sell my book. I just need an online store. And a lot of the time you find that the traffic on online stores is greater than the traffic in the actual store at exclusive books. So why should I be there with a huge consignment of books, getting a loan from the bank because I don't actually have all the money to print all the books that exclusive books needs from me? Now I can print as much as I can afford because my online store is my main sales platform, and that allows me to move books at the pace that I can afford to, right? And that gives you so much power. You don't have to worry about commission and sharing your profits with anybody. You can literally build a loan from scratch and make money. And use your online store as a place to get advertising. If you've got enough traffic, remember, advertisers just want eyes. They want attention. They don't care if the attention's online or if it's offline. So if you've got the kind of online store that's got attention, get ABSA to sponsor, get any bank, get any MoFire, whoever, to be a sponsor on your store because they've got the attention on your store. So for me, I think the online space has changed everything. It's even changed the shape of influence. You know, I think there were so many people who were silenced before who weren't seen because they couldn't access the traditional channels of influence. You know, radio and TV are very hard to penetrate. And now we're finding that radio and TV are finding the talent on social media, because it's just so easy to do, and it's actually giving them options in terms of the kind of talent they can pick from, the kind of content that they know people are interested in. Social media tool is that, it's a listening tool. It's showing companies what people are interested in, what people like. It's showing entrepreneurs what kind of products they should be creating because they're seeing what people are buying. You have access to things like Alibaba now because of technology and the online space. So you don't even have to have factories. We know that South Africa, one of our biggest problems was production and factories. And now people who are starting businesses are just importing. It's not the best solution, but at least we are creating companies that are hiring people. And we are seeing somewhat of a South African product on a South African shelf. And that does something to the psyche of the consumer. It makes them say, oh, Nike is not the only thing that matters. There's so many other brands that my people created that I can buy from, which means I can also create that thing. So we're actually starting, I think technology in the social media space has started this revolution of people wanting to build for where they come from. And it's making people more patriotic because they now know that they can bring value to where they come from and they don't have to take it from somewhere else. They can amplify where they come from and make it valuable to the rest of the world. I think tourism has even improved and the numbers have spiked just because of the kind of marketing we have for South African tourism, from all of these girls who are bloggers and whatever, and they're just showing beautiful spaces. I can't remember the numbers exactly. But the States has the biggest cohort of black people traveling to Africa and literally spending like months here on holiday, going all over, just because of the content that they've seen. So we're getting dollars coming in, we're getting pounds coming in. This is a big deal. We cannot sleep on this space, and money is moving in this place. I think people were even saying that Facebook might become its own economy at some point because of the sheer numbers and the money that's moving in that place every single day.
The future of marketing?
The future of marketing. I think the future of marketing is in entrepreneurship, actually, because entrepreneurship is where you see the process of marketing unfold in its purest form. You know, I think when you're thinking of big corporate, they're more brand hubs. They've had the product for so long and there's so much money running through that now all they're doing is nurturing the brand, incubating the brand, amplifying the brand, trying to get more customers. But a lot of the time, if something is in a big company with lots of employees, it's going towards the end of its product life cycle. So the future of marketing for me is in entrepreneurship and on social media. And we're going to be seeing a lot of dynamic marketing, even different pricing models coming from the online space, different ways to market, different ways to amplify from how people just naturally try to sell their products and create products online.
You're so correct. The future of marketing is in entrepreneurship. I've lived that for the past 10 years myself. Sometimes I even put it simply to people. I'm like, I built this brand from my phone.
Yes.
You know, never had any money to put up a TV ad or radio ads. I literally used my phone the whole time. And I made sure that I take advantage of social media.
Yes. I mean, even my Lebo brand, people who've been following me for the past 5 years, they know that this is an evolution.
Yeah.
Look,
Guys, don't sleep on yourselves. You are not working on social media.
You're not poor, you're just broke.
You're just broke.
So when
For now, you're gonna be okay.
Exactly. When I started my brand, actually the thing that got me to grow quite a lot was the fact that I would do my videos in my gym clothes, like looking crusty AF. But like I was just like, I have a message to share. Exactly. And it doesn't matter. It was so funny because when people contacted me, they'd say, Lebo, I work in corporate or I'm in this space. And we always feel so much pressure to show up in a certain way. And here you are, you speak like us, you sound like us, you're smart, but you're not here with like makeup on and hair. You're not putting the pressure on us. You're making us feel like it's okay to be ourselves. And I was like, yeah, because I'm not my makeup and hair. This is just me kind of zoning in on the fact that now my brand has evolved. My clients are bigger companies and I'm trying to move in a different direction. But when I started, I was speaking to the entrepreneur. I was speaking to the everyday person. And they had to see an everyday person to be able to understand my messaging and see that it's applicable to them. And over time with me growing my brand, I say to people, look at how I started to where I am. That's how your business should be as well. No one's funded me so far, but I'm at the stage where my personal brand as Lebo Lion, we are pitching to investors. Because I'm at that point where they know that so much can come out of my name and they understand the influence I have in certain spaces. And I'm a human being. That's why I'm sitting here. Literally,
your work speaks for itself.
Thank you very much. But literally, people don't even understand. You can get investors. You can pitch yourself to investors. I don't sing. I don't dance. I talk about marketing on TikTok and Instagram, and I talk about it on my podcast. But now I can literally go to investors and say, I need X amount of money. This is the trajectory of my brand growth. This is how I'm going to diversify my brand in the next 3 years. The economy is looking like this, so this and this is going to happen, and this is the value of the rand that you're going to get from me in this much time. Like, I'm running myself like a business, and people don't get that that's how buck building a brand is, and that's how buck marketing is. It should be freeing you from having to work for anybody. If you don't want to. People don't know that I've never worked in corporate. ever in my whole life. I've never worked I've been an entrepreneur my entire life. I have never worked in corporate. I bought myself cars before. I've had a house. I've got some investments, all from everything I did online, basically. And what I was able to leverage from my online presence, offline. But I've never worked in corporate. The only other job I ever had was like for an agency, and we were the people who brought this building that we're in, this one across the road. Yeah. We were the ones who opened it up, and we were putting bespoke African brands in the space at the time. Makosa, that was his first ever storefront. A lot of these other brands, they started there. I met them all in the space when I was the project manager. But other than that, I've never worked for anyone.
It's been so beautiful to watch everybody's growth and everyone's evolution. I remember sitting down with, just across the buildings, you're saying, there used to be a entrepreneurship sort of hub here.
Yes.
There was a family tree store with Casper Nyoves.
Yes.
Drip also started
I was
here with
I was
pop-up
there
store.
when they were there.
Oh, is
I was the
around
project
that time,
manager.
yeah?
I was the project manager before Drip, but when Casper just started with Family Tree, I was there when Makosa was there. I was there with Everybody. When we started, I was
We
the
all
first project
started,
manager.
man, I remember.
Yeah, I was there when they were building this thing.
Yeah.
I got hired when they were building it.
I remember speaking to MacGyver. He visited me at Massive Metro, telling me about wanting to start the podcast. We actually had a chat. We were supposed to start it together. MacGyver stood me up. I was like, I'll go start this thing alone. It's just so great to see where he is now.
Yeah.
I remember YFM. Ayanda MVP.
Yes.
I remember we had lunch and we were just chatting, and she was telling me, you know, the game is changing. Even female DJs are now putting on makeup. And she was telling me, I think now it's time for me to also, and this was before she was putting on makeup. And just to see what she's done with her life and just her brand, her personal brand, up until right now. Those are some of the people I can think of. I can also think of, who else? Theo used to deliver these shoes.
Yes, yeah, I remember
of his
that.
car. He used to take deliveries. He used to go deliver. Like, we're all just starting out. There was just this buzz in Johannesburg of this culture of entrepreneurship, and just to see how far we've gone, all of us, just from now, around 2014, 2015, 16, all the way to now. It's like people, I'm even checking out Makaibo on his podcast. He's glowing. He's looking dope. I'm like, yo, you know? It's exactly as you're saying with yourself as well.
It does.
Like, it's exactly as you're saying, personal branding, also you can choose to say, okay, now maybe I'm appealing to this market.
Yeah.
Maybe it's time for me for growth or for the next level, you know?
But I mean, also, Sbu, people have to be aware that if you're a brand, you're competing in the commercial market, right? So you're in business, and markets evolve, and you need to evolve with the market. I can't be Lebo who doesn't wear makeup in 2023 when everything is about that. I'm making myself irrelevant. Relevance is important. Yes, be authentic and, you know, true to yourself, but also maintain relevance. And this is the look. This is the look for 2023. If I want to be relevant to the young person who's watching me, and I want to show older people in corporate that actually this is how you need to be moving, I need to be relevant. So older people do look at me in these corporate spaces and go, oh, Lebo's doing this. That means the young ones are trying to, this is where they are. Then the younger ones are going, oh, she does this, she gets us, you know? So you have to understand how your brand is positioned so you can speak to the right people in the right way.
But adapt or die. Right?
Adapt or die.
I mean, where's BlackBerry? Remember there was a time when BBM was the thing.
Yeah.
Now we are WhatsApping.
Yeah.
Remember there was the Reader's Digest.
Yes.
There was BlackBerry. There was
Yellow Pages, for goodness
sake. You know what I
sake.
mean? Like people, some companies refuse to evolve.
Yes, they refuse.
Adapt, and they died.
And you have to. Even as a human being, just being yourself is not enough. Who is yourself in 2023 versus yourself in 2014? You should always be evolving. If you're not evolving, then your brand and your business aren't growing.
And same here. 2014, I was on radio.
Yes.
2023, I'm podcasting. Evolving with the time.
Yeah. And God knows where you'll be in 2 years' time. You might be somewhere else because technology makes us move so quickly that now we're not doing 5-year moves. We're doing 6-month moves, 1-year moves. Things are moving very quickly. So we don't know where we'll be. Maybe I'll be in a baddie, who knows? Like, you never know.
I don't see you as a baddie.
You never know. Maybe I'll be a baddie because it's cool to be one. I mean, I'm even more of an influencer now on my page and I never was. I was very like business, marketing. Now I'm like, no, I'm going to show myself looking cute. I'm going to work with brands and I'll cook something and drink something. I wasn't doing that before, but now I want to.
The podcast also was strictly entrepreneurship.
Yes.
But as things evolve and things grow, I'm like, we are more than just entrepreneurs. Like we're also, you know, musicians, we're also artists, we're also, you know what I mean? All these diverse talents that we have as South Africans. Like, no, open up the podcast to everybody else.
Yeah.
Because now I'm also seeing this is international. It's on the internet.
Yes.
So show them what South Africa has. It doesn't only have entrepreneurs. Show
You're
them
right.
everybody else. And I think, I don't know, you guys will tell us if it's working or it's not. I've seen some of you guys who are like, yeah, but it was just only entrepreneurs and we like it that way. What do you guys think? If you want us to go back there, let us know. If you're loving the direction at which you're taking and growing as a podcast, let us know. But yeah, I get you.
I mean, you know, being a human being is dynamic. And I was giving a keynote the other day and I was saying to the brands that nowadays we're living in a world where your customer is also a brand, right? So when you say brands are speaking to people, you're actually saying brands are speaking to brands, and you're also saying people are speaking to people because brands are people now. Do you get what I'm saying? Companies are people. They're no longer just companies because they're brands, which means they're people. Anyway, so in that being said, the best way to build a brand and to make money in this world that we're living in now is to connect with the human. Right? So that means you can't be one-dimensional because human beings are not. How do we have a relationship together as brand company and brand person? It's in finding the different ways that we can plug into each other's lives. We help each other because we are both brands. And we understand each other because we are both brands and we're both people. You know, so brands of the future that are going to succeed are going to be the ones that are connecting holistically with the human being. It's, yes, we know Lebo shares marketing, but also where does she eat? Where does she buy her clothes? Who's she friends with? What does she think about pets? It's that person who can do that, who's going to be able to build a personal brand that's very successful, or a business that's very successful. Like, you know, yes, you're selling MoFi, or you sell cars and you have a dealership, but you can't just give me the car when I come to your dealership. What else is it about your dealership that says something about me as Lebo? Lebo likes nice things, so maybe when I come, you're giving me champagne and they're nice clean couches for me to sit on, and I get to see celebrities coming in every day because, you know, it's that kind of thing. It's that holistic experience of, it's bigger than just a car. It's a part of my entire lifestyle. And how do we, as brands, provide that to our customers who are also brands? So everything they buy has to say something about who they are.
Ladies and gentlemen, Lebo Lion. And she's a brand new friend of the show because of how much knowledge she possesses. We also can't squeeze everything else into just a little under an hour.
Yeah.
I think, you know, would love to have you, you know, whenever you're available to shoot some episodes and focus also on other topics because your knowledge is just very diverse.
Look, thank you, Sbu. And I want to call you out.
Yeah.
With this podcast because I feel like you don't have enough female voices. I'm glad you have me on, but I want to see more female voices.
Thank you.
And I think that this platform is such a beautiful platform because so many people are watching it, right? And diversity is key. So I want to see more women. I don't want guys to just think that the only people who can speak about entrepreneurship and marketing are men, because the ones who are actually carrying most of these industries are women. You can ask both Theo, both whoever, the people who are driving their businesses are women. They'll say, there's this lady, she's the one doing all of our deals. There's Banban, she's the one. And I don't think people who are sitting at home know that that exists. They're thinking they see a Theo Baloi, therefore Theo's the one who's doing everything. It's like, no, guys. Women have knowledge. We are also entrepreneurs. We are also game changers and disruptors. So I think people like you should be amplifying that more because you know it exists.
And you're correct. Also, me and all my companies is just ladies
Women
that are running the game. And thank you very much for calling me out.
Yeah.
I think this year I've had more male voices than sisters. But obviously, if you check from ever since the podcast started, you'll see that the balance. There's also a lot of female voices, but you're very correct, especially this year.
Yeah.
I've only had a few sisters, and thank you very much for calling me out. You've just reminded me. The team needs to know we need more sisters. And all you sisters out there, we're looking forward to having you on the platform.
Yes.
Last words, maybe in closing it out to the people out there?
My last words are, you need to know that you have the power to design the life of your dreams. No one's going to give you the life that you want. No one's going to build you the business that you want. You have to do it for yourself. And it starts with believing in your abilities and having the audacity to just go for it. You know, it doesn't matter how much money you have or don't have, how pretty you are or not pretty you are, who you know. Those things do not matter. A person who wants to start something meaningful just starts. And I swear to you, the universe aligns to make things happen once you just start.
Ladies and gentlemen, Lebo Lion, the voice of marketing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Raleboga.
Thank you.
Nda.
Ah.
Nda, ne?
Yes.
I'll see you guys on the next episode.